Can anybody hear me right now? 2 watching. For some reason, my slideshow is not popping up. I don't understand. Yeah, this is the wrong one. Okay, what did I do? Running now. Showing stream. There you go. Sorry. All right, I think I totally messed this up, so I'm sorry for anybody who's confused because I'm confused as well. Hopefully people can join. I tried to change the setting of what was the topic today from what originally was supposed to be week 7 to going back to week 1, because week 1 I feel like is a really big foundation piece of what we've been talking about through this whole process with the grip and stuff. And for some reason it created 2 different sets. So hopefully everybody can find me on the right one. Right now, I don't know how many people it says they're on there, but or people watching, or some people on the other one, but hopefully it works. Again, hopefully you got no feedback. Looks like that microphone's good. This microphone's turned off. So, all right. And I got a clicker that works hopefully this week. Fingers crossed. So if you haven't tuned into the podcast or webcast before, again, my name is Mike Dixon. I'm located in Maryland, at Clarksburg, Maryland, just north of DC. I work at Little Bennett Golf Course in Montgomery County. We're going to clean this off. Minor details. For Montgomery Golf at Little Bennett. And again, I've been here for 5 years. I was a congressional for a long time. One of, again, Golf Magazine top 100 instructors. And the big thing I want to go through in this series is really start to try to explain how your body influences how we grip it, and how there's all these other components that really, really blend together and work together. And we start mixing components together that don't work well, then it starts to get a little bit more troublesome. Think everything is working now. I can hear you, see. Okay. Thanks, Ben. So again, just some real key influences on my instruction. I would say it definitely starts with the golfing machine. Lynn Blake, probably one of the best around that, with the knowledge and his ability to make it understandable and digestible. And then my influences with how the body moves with Mike Adams and EA with BioSwing Dynamics, and then Dr. Wright. And then on the scoring side, when I start talking about being a scoring coach, Will Robbins and RGX. So those are kind of like my cornerstones of where I am today. Biggest things we're going to work through is just some core pieces of the golfing machine. Again, for those of you who have not heard of it, it's a little yellow book, very influential into most of the top teachers in the world. You don't have to read it. It's not like Hogan's 5 Fundamentals. It's not a sit down and like coffee table read, but it's more of an encyclopedia. He broke down everything into a system. So it's not a mold. It's not a model. We have a system, and through this system, we can create different patterns. And a lot of times as a teacher, again, I'm just as guilty. I fell into a pattern that I liked and I try to get a lot of people to do. And that's where I started to understand how the body, through the BioSwing Dynamics stuff, really starts to influence the pattern that we need to have. So tonight, what we're going to try to do is go through some of the things that are going to influence your pattern and in your swing, and some drills that you can do, again, easily at home. Nice thing is, first time I did this, I crammed it into 30 minutes because I thought it was running late on time. Going to take it a little slower this time. So hopefully we can get through this. Also want to give a big shout out to my sponsor this week, Nick and Brian at Bighorn Golfer. Anything you need golf, from simulators, electric carts, electric bikes, golf mats, you name it. He is the man. He's out of Pittsburgh, local guy. Great dude. But again, thank you for all your help and your support along the way over the last couple of years. And just want to recognize them as being one of our sponsors tonight. So let's get into it. Again, different things that we're going to go through. So again, it's not a method. I think when we start thinking methods, 2 plane, 1 plane, stack and tilt, those are methods. Okay. Those, like, we are a system. And what we have is we have systems in place all across the board, from anything you do in your job, right? We have a system and a process that we follow. And I think when we start looking at golf instructors, most instructors have a system. A lot of times we refer to that as our philosophy. So tonight we're going to kind of get a little bit more into my philosophy and how I got to where I am with everything. Again, the golfing machine has really given me the ability to understand how the angles influence the swing, and how, like, just the geometry and the physics of what's happening, both which I hated in school, but if I maybe had a better understanding of it, how it implemented into my golf swing, I probably would have cared a little bit more. And then the BioSwing Dynamics, I really try to go through. There's 3 key ones that I try to stress that we're going to cover tonight, and get a little bit more in depth of. So, but again, golfing machine, Homer Kelly, I got a copy of it here. This is the 6th edition. And again, it gets blasted a lot of times, more just because I think people get into the first chapter and they just don't understand it, and they kind of get lost. And if you get into the golfing machine as a teacher, it's definitely valuable. But when you first open it and you go to the preface in 10, he tells you exactly how to read it. And he tells you not to read it from chapter 1 through. He tells you exactly how to go through. He references, don't use the reference numbers, which bounce you back and forth through the book. But what he did was he broke down the golf swing. So how I would best explain it is, he broke the swing into 24 components, right? So like a component would be how my hands are placed on the club. So we can say that we can overlap it, we can interlock it, we can 10-finger it. he said that, again, out of those 24 components, there 6 of the 144 variation are how the grip can be applied hand to hand. Okay. So we can go reverse, we can go overlap, we can go reverse overlap. So those are like kind of just understanding like where he was thinking. He wasn't trying to tell you how to do it. I would stress anybody who teaches golf, you are teaching the golfing machine. You're teaching a pattern of the golfing machine. Len, my mentor, he basically explains how Homer in 1969 wrote the pattern for Jim Furyk before Jim Furyk was even born. So it's not a way, it's a system. And I think, again, like I take it really to heart when people kind of bash it, because I see it very valuable to how I became a better teacher. I use it every single day. I don't reference numbers or stuff, but the vocabulary you will hear me use, as in low point and radius and compression, all these words he was using in 1969. And again, before that, because it was published in 69. So, but I think when we start talking about the golf machine, again, we can call it the three-system triad. But we got to control 3 things. Okay, so I'm going to use my big club face here, and there's 3 pieces to this club. Now, again, we can talk about the grip, the shaft, the club head, the hosel, all that stuff, whatever. But there's 3 primary things that we have to control. We have to control the club face, we got to control the club head, and we got to control the club shaft. Okay, so when we start talking about controlling that, each piece of those has something else that's going to control it. So we'll get a little bit more into that too. And again, we have 3 stations. We have at address, before I swing back, right? At the top, and into the finish, where we always want to get right, nice and balanced. Okay. So, and then we go through, and it's like, how do I control those 3 pieces of club? So I got the club face, which is controlled by my left hand. And that's where he stresses that the left wrist, the lead wrist, is flat. Now, some of the things that he explains were kind of taken a little too literal, in my opinion. And so we'll get a little bit into that when we start talking about flying wedges and stuff. I think that might have been in week 2. But going through and understanding, it's like, okay, so I got my left hand's controlling that club face, right? So wherever my wrist goes, that's going to move and affect my face. Lag pressure. So lag pressure is controlling the club head. So when I'm coming down and through the ball, all this pressure is in this pointer finger. We call that pressure point number 3. All of the stress of the shaft is going into that pointer finger. Again, like you look at Vijay Singh, the only point of his right hand that's on the club is that big first phalange of his pointer finger. That's where all the thrust is getting driven. So we call that lag pressure. Okay. So it's dragging the club back through the ball. And then trying to control the club shaft on a straight plane line. And we're going to get a little bit more into that. But when we get back, like, we don't want it to be too flat. We don't want it to be too steep. The club shaft is ideally trying to point. If I use a couple of 6 here, we refer to this as the baseline. See if we can get it straight on the camera here. It's also known as the target line. But when I think about like the base of my TV stand here, right? Well, that's where my TVs are resting. So the plane is resting on the baseline. So that's the base of the plane. So when I come back into my backswing, ideally, sometimes we want to try to get that club to be relatively pointing to the baseline, or it's parallel to the baseline, or it's parallel at the top, coming back down. So trying to control the club shaft. Again, you get people who start going here to here. And again, there's different reasons for that, I find, but we want to try to control that shaft as much as we can. All right, so flat lead rest. When Homer talks about the flat left wrist, he's not talking about visually flat. Okay, so we're going to learn more about our hands here in the next 5 seconds. than probably most tour players. Okay, so you hold your hand straight out. Okay, if I angle my fingers down, that's uncocked. Okay, see how my fingers are down? If I go up, that's cocked. And if I go right here where my thumb joint and my wrist here, that's level. Okay, so now for my to the right, if I'm a righty, I turn my hands to the right, I roll my hands to the left, and I come back to here, and this is vertical to the ground, like a wall. Okay, also I can be arched or I can be bent. Okay, so if I go like this, arched, bent, flat. Okay, so a lot of times when people hear Homer say, oh, we need a flat left wrist, he wanted a flat left wrist at impact, but at address, typically, if I go in and I get my glove here, typically the left wrist is going to appear bent because a turned left hand, so if I take my hand and I turn it onto my grip, it appears to be bent, but it's not really bent. Okay, so it's turned. Now, what we're going to get into with the glove here in a little bit is trying to get where we start to control that base. So one of my favorite drills when we start talking about training a flat lead wrist at impact, then always love my shameless plugs. Got my lag bag here. And what's going to happen is I'm going to use a real club here. Okay, so when I go into setup, I can just go into either going up to the top, coming down into impact, and then again, you can see where I got some good shaft lean. But for me, I got like our compression wedge on our lag bag, making sure that club face isn't open, making sure it's not closed. I'm trying to get where I'm coming down into that ball. My hips are a little open, my left leg's a little straight, my right leg's a little curved in, I'm pushing off that hip. So sometimes I might even just go where I go into impact fix. And you see, like, I'm not pushing my hands forward, I'm turning and pulling, right? My left shoulder is pulling my arm up here, and that's what's making that get, like, my hands get stressed and push forward. Okay, so those are two great drills to do. And we'll get into like a little impact fix drill too, I think. So lag pressure. Okay, so do you ever see, I see Rory do this a lot. Lag pressure, what I want you to think about is the club is like, the club head is the caboose, right? It's like I get up here to the top and it's getting dragged back to the golf ball. Okay, so I can't swing my arms down because now my whole body got passed. So when you think of lag, most of the time in the industry of golf, when we think of lag, most of the time lag is just described as this angle between the left arm and the golf club. Okay. Well, if that's the case, then how do I have lag in a putt, in a chip, in a pitch, or even in a level wrist pitch shot where I don't cock my wrist? Okay. So lag is the pressure that's being applied to my pointer finger as I'm driving through. So if I use this kind of like little bulb thing here, again, if I go here, I feel that pressure in that pointer finger. You can see the shaft is being a little stretched, right? It's a little like archy. If I do it with the stick, it's going to be a little bit, probably even more exaggerated, right? So that's what's happening. Okay. That's lag. The club is lagging behind. I always kind of use the expression like a skier getting pulled by a boat. You know, the skier can't pass the boat. Yeah, we all know that. For some reason, because our golf ball is not moving, our skier tries to pass the boat, which is the hands. So trying to go through and do some drills with this, I think this is a really good drill to kind of do. I've seen Rory do it where he like holds the shaft. Again, we kind of call it a pump drill. Okay. I would do it where I would do it really slow, hold position as much as I can, coming up to the top, holding. And now when I'm doing this, I'm also checking my wrist action. So again, if I want my wrist to be here, see how you can't see my watch? That's flat. Okay. So if I'm doing this pump drill and I'm coming down into here and this wrist is already cupped and bent, there's no chance I'm going to come into impact with a flat wrist. So I have to make sure that when I'm doing all these rehearsals, I'm training my hands to do exactly what I want, right? So I got here, I'm coming down. This is good. Okay, coming down. What we got, Brian? That sounds great. Cool, thank you. So just worried we're using a new mic today. So hopefully it's a lot clearer on the recordings too. So if I'm coming up to the top, what I want you to do is you're going to take your pointer finger and you're just going to hook the finger. And we're just going to go to the top. And we're going to come back down. But you can see like how my body has to help me do that. I'm not just doing this with my arms, right? So notice how I'm coming down into impact. And then I can release it if I want to. And I can do that really well, actually, into like an impact bag. It's a great drill. I don't have to do anything. Again, they're also known as smash bags. I don't like to call them smash bags because I don't want to hit it hard. I'm coming in here and I'm coming down in impact. Now, if I pull this back far enough so you can kind of see me do that, when I'm coming down into this position, my wrist is uncocking and rolling into plane. So I'm coming down, that left wrist is flat, down into impact. Club face is really square. Now, when I do like using the impact bag, I find too many people kind of come in here and they kind of look like this. I always try to keep my head back a little bit, almost like I'm looking at it with my left eye, just to make sure that we're not peeking a little too soon. But I would go through, do that, hold the positions. Again, like freezer swings, go through, hold positions. If I'm going through and I get into this position and I hold that for a couple seconds, I'm only in that position for hundredth of a second, maybe coming down. But I kind of feel where my foot is, where the pressure is in my right foot, where's my hip, where's the pressure in my hands, where's the club? Again, like I want that club to be kind of angled back and up. Okay. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that through the course of the videos too. We call that shaft wants to be parallel to the angle of approach. All right. So straight baseline. Get my laser here. Again, for those of you who are on that have taken lessons with me, you know how much I love my laser. Again, mine's pre-made or handmade, custom made. Laser off of eBay and a little mount flashlight mount. You can get like a flashlight mount that you can put on a bike. This is a flashlight mount for, I think, a gun. But you see how I got my laser here? You can kind of see it on the ground. So what's going to happen when I swing back, that club is going to swing back and try to trace that line. Okay. Now, when we start talking about body types, okay, I am a believer that as more of a cover golfer and my hip starts to turn, we do tend to take the club inside. Probably the only person on the planet that believes that. But when I come back here and you start to see that line, again, pointing at my baseline, it's tracing all the way down. And then I come through, and again, like that club is parallel to the baseline, releases and comes through. So that's me controlling the shaft. So we have controlling the club face with the left hand, controlling the club head with the right hand, and controlling the club shaft with the baseline. And I always like to put sticks down on the ground. Again, like you always hear people talk about working on alignment. Again, we want to make invisible lines visible. Hard to see a baseline if I don't have that drawn out. And I'll actually even take one of my other sticks here when I'm practicing. Keyword when I practice. 3 kids and job kind of makes that tough. But I like to build this kind of like railroad tracks. I always set this one up first because I want that front one to be pointing towards my target. Then I will set this one up to be parallel. And then I will get this one to be parallel to those 2 lines too. Okay, so that's kind of my practice that I'm working on. And I will even actually add, again, this yellow angled stick here. Kind of angle this down so you can kind of see that a little bit better maybe. So you can see how when I'm coming back down into my golf swing, that club shaft, when I'm looking down, is very parallel to that yellow line. If I'm coming out and over the top, the club is making an X right now with the orange stick. So I'm coming back down, and butt of the club is pointing slightly out to the right of the target line. That is going to dictate my path. Okay. So if I'm really in here, that's going to be a big path. That's going to be probably like 10 degrees into out. So you don't really have to do it that much. I'm going to lose my iPad here. All right. Yeah, last time I was already trying to crank through all this stuff because I thought it was already done. All right. So why I screen before I try to fix. So most of the time, if you come and get a lesson with me, let me fix this because this is crooked. My OCD, I can't handle the crookedness. Sorry. Probably can see it too a little bit. When I go through and I'm trying to screen someone, I'm usually listening and watching more of what your tendencies are to, before you even hit a golf ball, listening to what your tendencies are for your miss. Because what I find is certain swing types and body styles have the same tendencies. So like if you tend to hook the ball, I would tell you, you probably don't want to hook your fingers because it gets your grip too strong. You need to be more of a cover golfer. And that would probably help you not close the face as fast, which we'll talk a little bit more about when we get into more of the BioSwing Dynamics. So there's things that influence the motion when we're going through all of this. So when I go through, I'm trying to diagnose where I need to go, what components, again, going back to my system, out of all those 144 variations, which ones do you need to have? And it helps me, it helps teachers, because again, like I'm not the only one who's doing this. There's a lot of great teachers who use mic stuff and BioSwing Dynamics, but it helps us get you where you need to be, controlling the ball, compressing the ball, making better contact, faster, scoring better, everything. Okay. So that's where, when we want to go through, it's understanding what your body is designed to do. Again, for 30 years, I tried to do something that I physically could not do. And I played okay golf, but now that I know what I'm designed to do, I don't have all these different swing thoughts. I'm not worried about positions. I kind of just have a couple things I know I mess up. And if ball tells me I do one of those 3 things, I fix it. So we're going to go through, and again, we're going to talk about 5 screens, but I'm really going to kind of harp on 3 primary ones. Because I feel like those are kind of the 3 that I really see the most important. So again, so you got Mike Adams and EA, again, great friends and mentors, and they put together basically a system, and to where they can tell you how you need to grip, posture, where your arm should swing. Again, it just helps me out of all those 10 quadrillion ways that Homer says that there's available, which way your way needs to be. So your wingspan to height. So you're going to need someone to help you with that, but measuring how long your wingspan is, fingertip to fingertip compared to your height, dictates how your arms go and your posture. Your forearm's going to dictate how you slot the swing. Your trail hand grip, which is, again, so the ones in the black are going to be the 3 key ones that I'm going to stress the most. Trail hand grip, that is probably, I think, one of the most important things, again, for controlling the golf ball. And then going through and the anchor, so pivot, how we anchor to and how we turn and rotate. That's going to be how we use the ground. And then your lead hand is going to be how fast your hips are. Yeah, I get a lot of times like how strong should my grip be again, it depends on you. It depends on your body. It's not really up to me. So it's probably a little harder to see that because it's really small. But when we go wingspan, so going to check my fingertip to fingertip height. If my arms are shorter than my height, then your swing is going to be what we call more of a low track swing, right? So again, so golf, the term that it would be more kind of a Jim Hardy one plane club and the arm swing really across your chest, like really low across your chest. Now, again, as complicated as everybody says golfing machine is, if I turn, this is my right shoulder and it's turned, this is my right shoulder turn, right shoulder plane, my arm, that's what I'm using to reference where my arm is going to go. I like to watch where elbows go as well, because if I see someone who goes up to the top and their elbows way above their shoulder, they're probably not meant to be a high track, right? So like if I drop that, you see how that like actually my trail hand and my trail arm is actually influencing where my arm is going. So I do really like to try to think more of your dominant side. I'm a big believer that your lead side is just holding on. Again, Hogan wanted 3 right hands, not 3 left hands. 3 left arms, I should say, 3 right arms. So equal, again, I'm a mid-track, so when I go up to the top, my arms are going to just be right across my shoulder. And if your wingspan is longer, it's going to go up a lot higher. That's when I usually start to slice it. My arms like to go high. Why does that matter? It's going to influence your setup. So if you have longer arms, you tend to have less knee bend and a little taller posture. If you have shorter arms, you're going to have a lot more bend from the hips. And then in between, again, a little bit more knee flex and hip flex. Did I skip one? No, 3. So again, trail hand. So there's a couple of different ways that Mike and EA kind of teach this to test it. One way is palms together, let the arms swing back, and wherever your palm goes, that's kind of your grip. Okay. That's usually tough for people because they like to turn their body. You're really not supposed to turn your body when you do that. So if I turned and I went like this, that's more of a side under grip. If I go, again, you can see how this is my natural action. My elbow just goes right up. That's more of a cover grip. So you see how weak my right hand is versus, again, like a Dustin Johnson, stronger. Again, this is where everybody likes to be, more neutral. But again, it depends. So the drill that I like to do to show people, and I'm going to use my big club here because you see it. So if I'm a cover. So if I grip my right hand interlock and my right hand gets really strong and I come through here, you can see how fast that club face is twisting. Okay, so you got to think about the left hand is controlling the face, but the right hand is really controlling the closure rate. So if I get it too strong, it closes it too fast. Now, if I take my right hand and put it more weak, I do the same thing. That club face swings a lot more on plane. It feels way more stable to me. So that's a really easy way for you to test that. The tricky part is most of the time people have a really strong grip and they train themselves to go like this. They're trying to keep it from shutting. Okay. So you do have to let your hands kind of have some little bit mobility, and you can see how much that's twisting and shutting. So I would hook it if I grip it like that, which is why I don't. Again, so we refer to that more under side on. So like side ons, like my hands like shaking. I would tell you that's what most teachers' preference is just like a neutral grip, and then side cover. The big thing when we start talking about the grip, and again, like I want to say it's week 2, 3, we start talking about the takeaway things week 3 and how your grip dictates how you load the club. So, and the reason why I'm doing week 1, again, because for some reason the video did not get saved. So I feel like this is a really important building blocks for everything else that I start going through. All right, so pivot. So what we find, again, I'm not trying to put everybody into a bucket. There are a lot of tendencies that I see. You can always have outliers. But the more this grip gets strong, the more that person tends to get back behind the golf ball. The more it's neutral, the more they stay center. And for me, if I get weaker, I tend to go more left. Okay, so again, so we have a front post, a center post, and a rear post. And then when you start talking about Dr. Wright stuff, the sequencing of that actually can influence your posting. So when you start seeing how all these pieces start to flow and work together, again, Brian, who's on tonight, like that was one thing that he started realizing was we started kind of mixing some things together, and it makes it harder to be consistent, have control, and be repeatable and make good contact. So what we start to see with those grips and how we load is also the real big topic anymore, is how we're using the ground, right? So whether we're gliding, whether we're rotating, or whether we're pushing. I always like how Mike and EA would kind of show it is if I take my hand and I kind of like push up against the wall right here, I'm going to go this way. If I push my hand here, I'm going to rotate. And if I put my hand here, I'm going to push down and up. So you see how my trail hand is really going to influence how I'm actually trying to use the ground. So for a guy who should have been like this for a long time, my whole life, I was interlocking under, loading into my right side, and I had no idea how to get over to my left side. I'd always stay behind the ball and just fall away from the ball because I wasn't really supposed to be back there. So when people are like, well, what happens if you do stuff you're not built to do? Well, you can. It's just you're not going to play your best golf. All right. So putting it all together, right? So again, we're getting into, we want flat left wrist. Okay. And this is where when the trail hand is wrong, I find it's usually because the lead hand is incorrectly on the club. So we're going to talk about the lead hand going through. And again, we got our plane line, BioSwing. Again, the slot, if we measure our forearm to upper arm, that's going to be your downswing slot. I kind of watch that a little bit, but I'm not too enamored with it. I really want to see where my backswing, I feel like if I load you right, you're going to swing down in a pretty good move. But again, like trying to go through and starting to learn what maybe your swing type is. And what I stress to people all the time is think about like when you played some of your best golf and what did I do when I did that? Now, if you're a beginner, sometimes this is hard because you haven't played golf for a long time. So you don't know what you have done or what you need to do. So when you're kind of tinkering, what I would tell you is video is awesome. Again, the cameras that are on our phones are better than the cameras I had to buy 10 years ago for $1,000 to capture like 60 frames per second. So you're getting 240 frames per second in slow motion. And there's plenty of apps that you can slow motion and click it and do it. But there's certain things that we're going to see as like, for me, where does my body tend to want to go? Right? So people who are rear post golfers, they usually get critiqued for being swayers. Now, I want you to understand, again, we're going to get more into this when we start talking about other parts of the golf swing, but that's a sway. That's a load. Okay. Like, so if I go this way, my body's going that way. That's not good. We talk about that, I believe, in week 3. So trying to start to figure out how you're matching things up. Again, tinker around, move the right hand, move the left hand. Before I go on, I am going to show you like my one thing is, again, I got my fancy Callaway Lagmaster glove here. And so there's a spot here in my wrist called the anatomical snuff box. In line with that, roughly right about the middle of the webbing of the hand, I always put a dot. So if I don't usually wear a glove, because I hate taking it off. If I do, I just go Jack Nicklaus style and leave it on. I don't ever take it off. But when I take that grip, I want that dot down the center of the club. So the worst place for me to put my thumb is down the middle. Now, if I get really close here, you can see how that dot is actually in front of the grip. If I just, again, like I always want it to be up here, butt of the club pointing towards my belly button. The dot is down the center. I can see the grooves on the face, making sure that the face is square, right? Get here. And then from here too, I can bring in my right hand and put my right hand on a lot easier. I find a lot of times people kind of go into their setup, and then we talked about this last week. They set their feet down, put the club on, club on the ground, then they try to figure out their grip. They're kind of doing it completely backwards from every tour pro. So trying to get into a routine. So again, things for what we want to do at home is definitely checking our wingspan. Again, usually it's ideally to have somebody help you with that. Go through, again, your trail arm versus forearm. Again, I wouldn't stress that one as much. I'm going to check more of how the club is trying to act. Another great drill, I forgot this one, is, I call it the fly fishing drill, and I have juniors who do this every single time. They'll take their club. So I got a really strong grip right now. If I lay this on my shoulder and kind of throw it out, and like, I'm just thinking right arm straight, you can see how close that club face gets on me. So what if I get my right hand more over, and I can't interlock it when I do that because it feels really weird, and I do that same thing, that club face doesn't want to shut as fast. So I find a lot of times as a cover golfer, people who get interlocked, they start trying to hold it off, trying to keep the face from shutting. So that's another way that you can test to make sure your grip is good. And so I think we're going to go through and let's just do some like our homework for next week. So I think, yep. So I want really slow, methodical swings. So if I have an impact bag, that's great. I love to get the sticks on the ground. Again, one of my favorite drills is if you don't have a laser, you can put your club, kind of get this in here. It acts like my laser. So I'm going to tell you, if you are more of a side under golfer or side on, you want to trace the baseline. Now I'm going to try to angle this back down again. Hopefully I don't lose my iPad off of the tripod. Okay. So these are 10 swings and things that we can do. If you go under my library, I have my 5 top drills, talks about the grip and drawing the dot. It talks about working on your pivot. It's all free. I want to help you guys get better. Get in there, check it out. But when I go into my setup here, again, if I'm a side under, I'm going to let that club kind of just go here. And when I get up to the top, it's going to be a little bit more laid off. When I say laid off, the club is more pointing behind me. If I'm more side under, I'm going to side on, sorry. My shoulders are going to take the club back. You see how that club's pointing right at that orange stick? I'm going to cock my wrist from here, and I'm going to go up to the top. The club should be a little bit more parallel. And again, when I come back down, I don't mind coming down to impact. It's really hard to go any further than this because, again, the stick's going to hit your rib cage. If you go too quick, you're going to find out why it's called a rib cracker. Don't go too quick. If you want to put a ball down there, again, Garrett, use a foam ball so you don't put a hole into the wall. I don't need mom to get mad at me. So here, top, back down into impact, holding that position. And I always like to kind of tilt my head. So if I do that kind of facing the camera here, I'm going back, top, down into impact, right? And again, I'm trying to train where I want to be. I want to train my hands. Our hands are super, super educated. The one thing I want you to remember, so remember I said as a cover golfer, if you tend to hook the ball, you're probably a cover golfer. I just have this feeling that we're not supposed to do that. We're tracing this yellow stick. And it all starts because of how we start our takeaway. And so I always fought this, and again, I don't know how many people would agree with me on the internet. I probably get ridiculed for this comment, but when I turn my hip, I put that laser down. This laser is going to literally go right back down this line. So if I go here and I turn my hip, it goes right back on that yellow line. And that lets my shoulder turn more down. And again, at the top, my club crosses the plane. Again, the top two players in the world right now don't want to be here, but this is where they're supposed to be. Okay. Larry Nelson was there. Jack Nicklaus was there. Arnold Palmer crossed the plane. You're allowed to cross the plane, right? Now, if you are a low core side under golfer and you cross the plane, that's your kryptonite. You're probably going to be in trouble. Usually that's because you turned your hips too soon. We'll talk more about that when we start talking about the backswing. But again, going through, see what else we got there. And working on pivot. So I like to always work on a pivot without a golf club. Going to go in. This is so much more relaxing than the last time. Swear, I got to like 7:55. I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to be done. So pivot. And again, if you go in, this is Bob McDonald, 1927. And all we're working on is just like how our body's rotating. So I got the stick on the ground, and all I'm going to do is like let my body turn, right? So I'm just I can lift my left heel, turn my body. Again, our left heel is allowed to get pulled off the ground. I don't want to lift it if I come like up. But again, all the great players ever, they all lifted their left heel. So again, the left heel is pulled off the ground by the right hip. Okay. And for me, the right knee is the left knee is pulled by the right hip. Okay. Now I go from there, I go and I hold this up across my chest. So I take my oath, like I'm going to solemnly swear never to sway or bob, but I'm just going to draw my shoulder back. Now, when I do this, this is trying to get pretty square to that stick. Okay. I don't want to be going this way. That's what we call reverse pivot. Again, if you're a rear post golfer, you might go back a little bit more. Okay. As a front post golfer, I'm trying to keep this stick right over top that orange stick when I'm looking down. Now, if you go to do that drill, I want you to understand that there's a difference between flexibility and mobility. And I have 3 herniated discs in my neck, barely can swing golf club right now. So I'm not very flexible, but there's ways to create mobility. Okay. So one way is I can take my toes and I can flare them open. Now, sometimes you might even notice that you just naturally stand that way. Well, you're probably going to want to have some foot flare when you play golf. Now, what that does is that opens my hip flexors. Okay. Now, if you are more of a cover golfer, we tend to like what we call heel flare. Now, if you ever had this problem where someone walks up behind you and says that you're aiming incorrectly, you might be a cover golfer, because what we like to do is we like to pull our right foot back. So all of a sudden people are telling us that we're aiming to the right, but we're not really aiming to the right because my shoulders are square to my target line, but my foot is closed. Even Mr. Hogan did it, so it's okay. So we got our impact bag drills, and then we're going to do some pump drills. Okay. So impact bag. Again, if you don't have an impact bag, shameless plug, lag bag is great. We got 4 different sides, all usable for 4 different things. I got this angle over here to promote shaft lean. On this side, it's angled to hit up for driver. On this back side, it's flat because I don't want shaft lean for chipping. I want zero shaft lean for chipping. There's Velcro, so my little compression wedge comes over here. My favorite one, my favorite part about this is the lag loop. You know, to drag that bag. So again, notice I'm not just doing that. If I just do it with my arms, I get a chicken wing. So I have to actually figure out, well, how am I going to do that? Am I going to push off with my right foot? Am I driving that with my right hip? Again, my mentor, Lynn, was infamous for dragging a mop, right? So I got some towels in this, so it makes it a little heavy. But again, we're going to do 10 swings. So for the impact bag, I'm going to do 2 different drills. I'm going to go into up to the top, come back down into impact. And again, I want to hold this. I want to see where I'm at. I don't want to be here. I don't want my shoulders twisted open. Okay. So if I do that facing the camera, probably see it just a smidge better. But if I come in and I go like this, you can see how like I'm twisting my body and my head. So I want to come in here and I want to be like that. Yeah, I'm keeping my head back, not just down, right? So if we could get rid of some words in golf, one would keep your head still. We want to keep our head steady, like Mr. Nicholas said. Number 2 would keep your left arm straight. Our right arm keeps our left arm straight. Our left arm is a rubber band. It's not a bar of steel. So I don't need tension, right? When I get tense, my shoulder starts getting really high and starts messing my body alignments up. So that'd be a couple things I would love to get rid of. Impact. The other thing is I would love to take the impact bag, and I like this drill, especially if you tend to kind of pull up and in. So I got ours on an angle, and so my club face is going to come into here on an angle. So you can see where I got my left arm pretty straight. I'm going to reach over here. And again, when I do that, I have to turn my body. It looks like a pretty good position, right? This is where every great champion is versus here. So if I swing down and I go like this, I'm going to break down everything. So get to here, again, reaching. Now, when I get to here, I don't even mind like having like a little bit of a stretch. I'm pushing out with that right arm. That left arm's not doing that. That right arm is stretching that ball. We're stretching that club out. So I'm going to go into address, up to the top, or even halfway back is fine. Down into impact. Again, I always like to keep my head where that ball would have been. Trying to see that divot. Okay, so good. 10 impact bag drills. Both had impact. You can do the one with the extension and the follow through. And then going into the hook drill for our final drill is we got our finger. We're hooking around the shaft. We're going to go up to the top, pull down. Now again, I'm not pulling with my left arm. See how I can pull my left arm? My body doesn't have to move. My whole body has to move. Now, when you do this, you're going to feel a lot of stress in this left hand because this left hand doesn't want this to happen. It wants to release it. Okay, this is the release. What are we releasing? We're releasing all the lag pressure. Right? Now, notice when I do that, where's my arm coming into? I'm not letting this go like this. We don't want that. So we're coming down, holding, down to impact. Right? Our hands are very educated. Lynn showed us, and I don't know if it was Homer that showed him, but it was more of a statue. It's called the homunculus. And basically it's built off of how much brain power is allocated to different parts of your body. So you got my eyes are big, the mouth is big, the nose is big, the ears are big, but the hands are huge because there's so much brain power that's allocated to your hands. And again, like that's where when people say, you know, I'm not very athletic, I'm like, well, you're pretty more athletic than you think, because to do some of the things you're doing to hit the ball the way you do, it's pretty challenging. So again, going through slow motion, it's really hard to do for people because I find they always just want to go. They want to go fast. They want fast results. Again, the society that we live in, we got to go slow. Swing slow so we can, got to walk before we can run. And again, thank you for Golf Live app. Again, this is an awesome platform. Cool to be able to see. Again, I have students that I teach that are tuning in and learning more about what I'm trying to teach them. and what some things that they shouldn't be doing that maybe they've tried in the past. But again, if you're interested in getting your swing reviewed or having a virtual lesson, that's one thing that the platform really is amazing. And it provides this awesome virtual experience for anybody around the world to go through. And it's like FaceTime on steroids. I can record your swing while you're hitting, and we can go in and watch it live. And it's all recorded, the whole entire lesson. So you can always go back to it. Again, like this program right now today, this is going to be recorded. So you can always go back to this. Hopefully this one gets posted. Fingers crossed. But again, if you go through and you look at the programs, there's different offerings that I try to do. Again, swing reviews. I try to give you some insight on what maybe you need to be doing with your swing type and your grip, and different drills. I use Coach Now for that aspect, which is a great platform that I've been using for years. But again, if you have any questions, you can always email me at Mike Dixon, mdixonpga@gmail.com, or you can always find me at Mike Dixon Golf and MikeDixonGolf.com. We got some golf camps coming up too. If you're interested in getting out of the tundra of Maryland, it's not even snow, it's just solid block of glacier. We're going down to Florida end of February here, and I have another one in March as well. So all you got to do is fly down. You get there, $3,000 covers your golf, and training and room, food, everything for the whole 3 days. So all you got to do is get down there and I'll take care of you. So hopefully you enjoyed tonight. Again, thank you for tuning in. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. Always happy to answer questions, and look forward to seeing you. We're not going to be here next week. Unfortunately, I know you're going to be sad. I have to go to Pebble Beach next week to do some teaching, but we'll be back the following week, going back to what we should have been covering in week 7. So hopefully we'll see you then. Again, thanks for tuning in.